would you like to take a cruise down the Nile River and experience new and exotic cuisine? How would you like to visit the mysterious Sphinx and explore the Great Pyramids of Giza and the city of Cairo? How would you like to walk where the great pharaohs have walked in the Valley of Kings and the temples of ancient Egypt? Today's guest will talk about these and other unique experiences which he encountered on a recent trip to Cairo and around Egypt. The Humanities and Mass Communications Department at Norwalk Community College presents The New Directors, the show that introduces you to television's future writers, directors, and personalities. And now join our host, Atiba DeCruz, to meet the next new director.
Thank you for joining us for today's edition of The New Directors. All the people involved with this program are students in the television production course and are directing, switching, controlling audio, operating cameras, and acting as talent for the first time today. The guests you are about to meet are students who, when not on camera, are behind the scenes working hard to bring this program to you with as few mistakes as possible. Each student will write and direct 4 different productions. This program will give them the chance to talk about themselves, the productions they are planning, and give you the chance to get to know them and watch their progress throughout the semester. Our guest today is an NCC student in the Film and TV Production course, and he has taken a trip to Egypt. He went to many of the different sites and ruins for which Egypt is known. He was able to sample a variety of aspects of the culture, ranging from their food and clothing to their fascinating history. We would like you to meet today's guest, Peter Dilenschneider.
How you doing? Great to be here.
Good. So we know that you're an experienced traveler and have had the opportunity to take a trip to Egypt. Could you tell us about the most interesting parts of your trip?
Certainly. Of all the traveling that I've done, Egypt was certainly one of the most fascinating destinations that I've been to. While I was there, I was able to sample many of the different elements of their culture, such as the different tombs that they have to offer, different cultural destinations, and ruins and stuff like that. While I was there, I got to see the pyramids of Giza, and actually I had a chance to go inside them. They were actually a lot smaller than I expected them to be. Also in Egypt, I got a chance to go to Abu Simbel, which is a temple that's built into the mountainside, built by Ramses II, with 30-foot tall statues of himself. Also had a chance to go to the Temple of Dendera, which was built in the 1st century BC. Architecturally, it's still in fantastic condition. The Temple of Amun-Ra was another place that I went to at Karnak, which also had about 70-foot tall columns. I also got a chance to go to the Avenue of Sphinxes at Luxor, but one of the most interesting places that I got a chance to visit was the Valley of Kings. There's the Hatshepsut's tomb, which is carved entirely into the limestone cliffs surrounding the valley. But one of the most unique things that I was able to do was go into one of the more recently opened tombs. Something that I didn't realize before I went was that many of the different tombs and temples were actually brightly painted thousands of years ago. Most of them have been eroded by the different weather conditions and people touching them, but since this was a relatively recently opened tomb, all the paint in there was still relatively fresh. I mean, relatively. It was just hard for me to believe that it had been painted thousands of years ago, considering how vibrant and vivid all the different colors were. In addition to my different stops around there, I took 3 days and took a cruise around the Nile. That gave me a chance to go out to a lot of different locations around Egypt, even though my trip was centrally located around Cairo. In addition to the different historic places that I got a chance to go, I was mostly surprised by the food. I hadn't given much thought to the food before I had gone on this trip, but it ended up being one of my most favorite cuisines. All in all, it was certainly a very fascinating and enlightening trip.
Sounds like it. So could you tell us why you decided to take the TV production course?
Well, I was interested in tackling the creative side of television production. I enjoyed creating different concepts, scouting potential locations, and utilizing several different camera and editing techniques to create my own unique style. I could definitely see myself working in this field behind the camera.
Okay. What are some of the most useful things that you've learned in the course?
Well, the useful things that we learned were certainly just the basics of how a camera works. We learned about the different lenses, the irises, the f-stops. We also learned about the importance of preparation. We learned about the different storyboards, shot sheets, camera placement diagrams, and how important that was to being in the field. We also enjoyed learning how to edit in Avid, creating different title sequences and motion effects, and bringing them all together to create a cohesive result.
Cool. So please tell us about the student study short, the T-sequence, the New England seasonal project, and the Orange project that you did.
Well, the student study short was the first project that we got to do. It was the only one we actually got to do during class time. For this, we had learned how to do framing techniques. We learned that we should focus on the action and making sure when things come into the frame that the action follows in and the action follows out. It was also our first interaction with the preparation, such as doing the different diagrams and shot sheets that were required for this project. It was obviously our first attempt at this, but I think we got better as time went on.
You did a pretty good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we had the tea sequence. This was the first project that we did entirely on our own, in our own time. What we had to do is depict somebody making a cup of tea, as you could guess from the tea sequence. We had to utilize the different tools and techniques that we'd learned in the classroom up to this point. In this project, I focused mainly on not crossing the 180 line, and I tried to vary the different shot placements and distances to give it a bit more interesting flair to it. Next was the New England seasonal project. This one took us outside for a look at nature. Here we had to use the different framing techniques that we learned, in addition with continuous zoom-ins and zoom-outs, poor man's dissolve, lines of grace, lines of motion, simplicity, and we also had to follow the rules of thirds and the compositional basics. Next up, we had the Orange Project. This was our final project throughout the semester. In this one, we had to utilize all the different techniques that we'd learned throughout the rest of the course. In my Orange Project, the orange finds his wife in bed with a banana and decides to take revenge upon him.
Okay.
Because oranges actually can't jump onto the counter like you saw right there, I had to use a motion effect editor to make it appear like it's jumping up by making my footage run backwards. The tagline for it was actually that revenge is a dish best served cold and in liquid form, because he turns them into a smoothie. This was the project that I definitely had the most fun with.
Wow, that was really cool. So you mentioned the variety of things that you've learned in the course. What was the most interesting and important skill you learned, and how will you put it to use in the future?
I would say that the preparation was certainly one of the most interesting things that I learned in the course. It was something that I never anticipated knowing. Our professor Stoney showed us that the different things that went into it, like the shot sheets, the shot list, the camera placement diagrams, it was really helped when you were actually out in the field doing the different stuff, so you could keep track of what you've done and what you haven't done.
What was your best project?
My best project was probably my New England seasonal project. I really focused on getting lots of different striking footage while I was out filming. I filmed everything for this project at the Sherwood Island State Park, because it offered lots of different trees, lots of different foliage, it was parking lots, there were hills, even beaches. It gave me a lot of different terrain to work with. I also got a chance to work with different wildlife. I used mostly birds. I tried to use squirrels, but they kept running away from me. I got to use items that I found around the park, such as cattails and seashells, to create a sense of simplicity. For this, we also had to use different techniques such as rack focus. I got lines of grace from the curve of the beach and the running path. I had emotional lines from the trees, and I also got a lot of different unique framing from the trees. There was that tree right there. It has this kind of circular part that I found very interesting. I definitely considered this to be one of the most rewarding projects that I did.
Really good shift focuses.
That was something that took a little effort.
Yeah. Today we got to meet someone who has had the opportunity to experience one of the world's oldest and richest cultures. As a TV production student, he hopes to put what he has learned at NCC to further his education in the TV and film, to use that knowledge to one day create exciting travel vlogs and deep culture documentaries. I would like to thank our guest today, Peter Dilenschneider, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. We hope you enjoyed meeting one of television's future directors, and we will hope you will continue to join us each week to watch our progress. Thank you and good day.
This has been The New Directors, with your host, Atiba DeCruz, directed by Tony Livingston. I'm your announcer, Miranda Erickson. The New Directors is a Norwalk Community student production.